Let me ask you this. I want to go around the horn here. How often do you think the more skilled player wins in Street Fighter 6 thus far? John?
Okay, so one of the biggest things about this game is you pick someone like Cammy and Jury, and you can lock someone into a one-player game. And that one-player game can be so dominant and so strong, and you're in the corner and stuff, and if you don't react perfectly or you don't read the situation perfectly, you are dead. You have more resources in this game than any other Street Fighter game that start with. Maybe Alpha 3 is an exception, but I think in this game you have more resources to start with that drive gauge. And so your ability to pin someone down and knock them the hell out in seconds is stronger than maybe any other time in Street Fighter history. And so I think that lends itself to a little bit of randomness that players don't like, and also have not fully accounted for just yet. I think that with some time, what we learned from Street Fighter V is that if you can figure out how to defend in Street Fighter V, you can figure out how to defend in any fighting game. I don't care what game it is, it's Marvel or whatever, you can figure out how to put yourself in spots where you're not going to get random out as much. But to answer your question, I would say the better player probably at this point in time wins about 65 to 70% of the time, and that number really should be about 80%. But again, the randomness of some of the stuff in here is not good.
I feel like the randomness really shows in the corner with throw loops because of how much time it takes for throws to recover in this. You really are in something of a 50-50 if someone is up in your face and threatening the throw loop or a neutral jump, because if they do that neutral jump and you go for the throw tech, you're getting a full combo still in the corner and forever, however many resources they have to spend on that combo into the same situation over again. Yes. So yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about what they should do about throw loops in the corner right now, because the argument is like, of course it was bad and something they got rid of in Street Fighter V, but this is a different game with different mechanics and different abilities to defend yourself from a lot of different things. And I'm a JP player. Hey, I have a special that stops throws as well. That all said, that game, I'm trying to dig into why it feels so simple. For why these pros are saying the game is easy to figure out and then you can just do the easy thing and put people in the 50-50 mix-up. And I think that's where it feels like it's right when I say that I'm never comfortable against anybody because someone can so quickly put me in the corner and then basically do this easy 50-50 that's going to either take a throw and repeated throws or half of my life into the same situation again. So I think as we try to drill down on what is it that we're specifically talking about, that's a big part of it. But Steven, how often do you think the better player wins in Street Fighter 6 right now?
That's a tough question, because going back to what we were talking about before of like knowing that they're like being able to recognize that there are direct counters to a lot of these situations, and a lot of times like something unique about this game I feel is like, at least something I hadn't felt in a fighting game in a long time, is like when I lose, I feel like I know exactly why I lost. It's not necessarily that I feel cheated. It's like, oh, I missed that drive impact, or I should have set that up better, or I overextended.
I went for the throw.
I went for the
after getting
throw.
thrown 6 times, and that's the time they jumped. And it's like, but it was just there. It was like it was a guessing game, and I mean that's part of fighting games. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. Before you move on that, I just want to point out that we had some Daigo versus Shudo footage. Shudo's playing Marissa with modern controls, and he throws Daigo like 5 times in a row, and on the 6th time, Daigo like does a wake up and finally gets him and stuff. So we're not just talking about like a theoretical, throw loops are like, good at like lower levels or something like that. We're talking about 2 very high-end players that are suffering hardcore from throw loops, and shout out to Daigo, he likes getting throw loops. But Steven, you were saying.
Sure, yeah, and I will kind of say on that note, like, I'm not defending throw loops because they probably shouldn't be in the game. Throw loops in that kind of situation probably don't belong in any fighting game, or at least any Street Fighter game, if I'm being honest. Like, because it's a little bit too much of it's too much reward and too little risk kind of thing. It feels
it's vortex, you know?
Yeah, it's a vortex, exactly, and it probably doesn't belong in there. And if that's one of like, if I needed to call for a change right now for Street Fighter 6, we probably get rid of throw loops. I mean, I wouldn't miss them. I don't use them. I play Lily. Like, I have better things that I should be trying to do instead of throw loops, and I think I need meter to set it up. Anyway, I would say probably get rid of them. But in terms of just kind of the overall and like how often is the better player winning? Maybe 70%. Like, I would probably give it a little bit higher, maybe 75, because again, I kind of go back to this idea of like, you can call what went wrong in a lot of instances. Like, say if you're not, like, even taking out of the equation, like, you got throw loop to death, or, Jury kept doing raw drive rush and you just guessed wrong every time, right? Like, even in those situations, you do have counters, you have things you can hold parry, and it's a mix-up, but everything, and, everything in fighting games is a read and a guess, right? Like you have to determine what your opponent wants to do and choose your best option, right? But like I do feel like more often than not, like I'm not walking away from the game going like I got completely robbed or I got cheated there or whatever. Like I always feel like it's like, man, like I messed that up, or I dropped my big combo when I had the opportunity or whatever. And so it's like in that instance, the better player kind of won because I wasn't on point. It was on me, right? And sometimes the answer is do less and let them do these things and hang themselves, right? But like I feel like I'm losing to random more because I made a mistake or I didn't know the right counter, even though there is a counter, right? Versus, you know, again, in a throw loop situation where you feel like I know the counters, it was just too ridiculous to even get to that, right? Like, it doesn't feel like that's a major part of the game for me right now, whereas in a game like Street Fighter V, that felt like it was a lot of the game, where it was like, I just got put into this horrible situation, and it's just so obviously not in my favor. Like, I'm just one guess and I'm screwed, right? And it's like, well, there it goes. So I don't feel like that's the case in this game. There are definitely instances where it can feel like that, but I don't think it's a major part of the game, at least not yet. At least, and again, at least from my experience and from what I've seen, you can definitely create some of those situations, but there's so many defensive options and different things you can do. You can usually, for the most part, find your way out. There are don't get me wrong, there are definitely scenarios where you can get overwhelmed, get rolled, and you just got thrown 10 times and GG's, right? It happens, but I don't feel like that's the major, like, overarching part of this game, at least not right now.
Yeah, I think I come down on it being the better player winning about 65 to 70% of the time. And I know we're talking about, is this game scrubby, and we're trying to highlight the mustard stains on shirt, so to speak. Everybody's going with, I love it. It's great. It's better than SF5, especially at the beginning of SF5. You're comparing month 1 to month 1, no contest. But there is something that's not quite sitting right. And I do think that, yeah, it's something like 65, 70% of the time. I agree with you, Steven, that it still feels like, yeah, I see why I lost, and it wasn't completely unfair, but maybe it wasn't really decided by skill. It was decided by a kind of coin flip, not fully, you know, but to an extent that people aren't super happy with. Hey guys, thanks for checking that clip out from our recent EventHubs Talkin' Block episode. If you want to see the whole thing, we talk a lot about Mena RD's recent tweets, where he essentially called Street Fighter 6 the scrubbiest Street Fighter entry to date. We look through all of those specific tweets. We see some reactions from some other top players. We discuss Drive Rush and whether that mechanic needs to be tweaked sooner rather than later, and more. So if you'd like to see that entire discussion, you can do so right here, one of these places, and the other one is a subscription to our channel, which you should also do, because then you're going to find out every time we post a new video and you can check it out. Thanks so much for watching this one, and we'll see you guys in the next one.